Someone said it was traveling day. Where else did you travel today?
We were in Greece, the ruins.
Yeah.
Oh,
Greece.
okay.
Yeah.
We traveled Greece.
With Rick Steves.
Uh-huh. And then you had to get on the Concorde or something to end up at my trip.
All right, Ms. Donna, you are good to go. You have a wonderful class.
All right, thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming in today on this Friday afternoon. Want to welcome you to Get Set Up, seniors teaching seniors about technology. We also have social hours. Today's class, we're going on an Arctic adventure. This is a trip I took about 20 years ago. My name is Donna. I'm your guide today. I was in the IT industry for over 30 years. I enjoy helping people get over their fear of technology. And this session is being recorded. If you wish to have a copy of the recording, you can email help@getsetup.io. And we are not paid to promote any of the products that I might talk about today. And some of them are going to be oddball, so thank God we're not. So we're going to go on our journey. We're going to go from Juneau, Alaska to the Arctic Circle and beyond to Inuvik, which is about 80 miles south of the Arctic Ocean. So we're going to pass through the Klondike Gold Rush cities. A lot of these are in Canada's Northwest Territories. It's a 28-hour trip, 972 miles. I hope you brought your comfortable shoes. Has anyone been in this part of the world? In this part? Okay. So that's the trip. Has anyone been to the Arctic Circle anywhere in the world? Because you can get to the Arctic Circle many different places. Anyone been there? No? All right. This is one of the few places where you can drive to the Arctic Circle. A lot of people get to cross the Arctic Circle by ship. There's only a few places. This is one you can actually drive to. So we're going to go check that out. So when we're looking at our trip today, we'll be starting down here at the bottom in Juneau, Alaska. We'll be heading up to Skagway, Alaska. And some of these names are probably familiar to some of you. If you ever taken an Alaskan cruise, you have probably gone to these two ports, both Juneau and Alaska. And then from there, we're going to go to Whitehorse in the Yukon territory of Canada. And then we're going to head over to Dawson City, which is also in the Yukon territory. And then we're going to head up to Eagle Plains. Now we're heading into the Northwest Territory of Canada. And a little bit beyond Eagle Plains is the crossing of the Arctic Circle. And then we're going to continue on up to the Mackenzie River area where Inuvik is. All righty. So the first stop on the trip, Juneau, Alaska. I'm going to show you a little bit here what it looks like in Google Earth, the downtown part of Juneau, Alaska. Juneau has a population of about 31,275 people. I'm just going to show you what's behind Juneau. If you've ever been there, you may have seen this very, very large mountain. They have very, very high chance of having avalanches in the city of Juneau because of their right up against a very large mountain. They have the Juneau ice fields. So if I come up here, and I'm going to show you a little bit here in Alaska, what it looks like. I'm going to back up a little bit. All that's ice, all here. Very large ice field, dozens of glaciers. You come in with a cruise ship, you're going to park around in this area to get to downtown. Alaska became a state in 1959. I'm going to move a little bit over here because one of the destinations people go to is the Mendenhall Glacier. Has anyone been to the Mendenhall?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have. Awesome.
Yeah, there it is right there. We're heading over to it. You can see, look, it's really beautiful to fly. You see so many glaciers over here. I'm going to head over here.
We took the helicopter and landed out of the ice.
Did it? Nice, nice. Now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here just to show you this. Well, actually, I can stay right here. I think we can see it right here. So there's no roads connecting, Juneau. Juneau is, they have mountains all around them. They're completely surrounded. It's the only way to get to Juneau is by flying or by boat. It is the third largest city, by the way, in the U.S. if you count just land, not people, just land. It's so big. And it is, of course, a big cruise ship destination. I want to show you this picture I have of Juneau. First of all, just a little bit of what the ice fields look like. When they say rivers of ice, it's rivers of ice going through the mountains when you're looking at these glaciers. Little picture of downtown Juneau. Now, this is the Mendenhall Glacier. This is a postcard I bought when I visited the very, very, very first time I ever went to Alaska. Oh boy, it was probably 25 years ago. And you will notice the glacier here. And you see this fall that's right here, the waterfall. Now, we're just looking at this on Google Earth. I want you to take a look at it. See where this waterfall is? And how far back the glacier has receded in about 25 years, something like that. So all the glaciers are receding, so they're moving away from the water. So you can kind of see that, what's happening there in Juneau with the glacier. But it's a great little town. This is the Mendenhall calving off. You can see all the ice in the water. This would be in the warmer time of the year when the ice starts melting. You can see it coming down. Now, when we were in Juneau getting ready for this trip, a friend of mine, let's head out to Juneau. We're going to go down to the downtown area so you can see it, what it looks like downtown. So when you get off from the cruise ships, this is their little historic district here. I'm going to put the satellite on and show you a little bit of what downtown looks like. There were about 7 of us that went on this trip. We had 2 vehicles, thank God. And you'll know a little bit about that later. I'm just going to click somewhere here downtown just so you can see a little bit what Juneau looks like. There we go. Oh, there, you can see the mountains over here and behind the town. It's a cute little town. It's got a little Western feel to it. You can see a cruise ship here in the background. So as we were packing up the car to get ready for our trip, one of my friends had this Fix-A-Flat. Does anybody know what that is?
Yes.
With the can, right? Well, we had that car packed. We had 5 of us in one car and 3 were in another car. And we had all our luggage and everything going on. And at first there was some balking about throwing this little can of Fix-A-Flat in the trunk. But it went in the trunk and it was a good thing because we needed it. So just to show you a little bit more of downtown. Again, the huge mountains in the background here. Very popular to come down here to Juneau on the cruise ships. So we had to get our car onto a ferry to get up to Skagway because you can't just drive to Skagway. So it's called the Alaska Marine Highway. They have 3,500 miles of routes. You can get your car onto the ferries. It will cost you a little bit more, of course. But they have routes. They start in Bellingham, Washington. So if you're thinking of taking your car up into Alaska, you would probably want to jump on around there. You will come up through all the different little towns along the way. And it goes all the way out to Dutch Harbor. So these are all the stops for the ferry system. They have 32 terminals. It goes throughout Alaska, British Columbia, and Washington. So we are here in Juneau, and we're going to just take Skagway. And we're just going to go up there. So we could have a nice little cruise going up. You know, you'll see a lot of whales usually. You'll see the glaciers as you're going up the ferry. It's beautiful, beautiful trip. Even for just a day, you know, just a one little, if you're in Juneau and you just want to take a quick little trip up to Skagway, it's a nice little trip to get up into that area. And just the views of all the wildlife. The eagles are everywhere. It's unbelievable how many eagles are up there. You see them everywhere in the trees. Just a lot of nice wildlife in Alaska. And just the mountains, just lots of mountains. So on the map here, we are now going to be in Skagway. Now, Skagway, this is what it looks like. You come in with the cruise ships. Usually people are coming in through here. Small town. This is one of these towns where people during the winter are not there. There's just going to be a skeleton crew living in Skagway, and then they come back when the tourists come back to the town. You can see the mountains behind here. Now, Skagway was the gateway to the Yukon. They have about 1,000 people that live here. The passage it's in is pretty deep and that's why it can accommodate the cruise ships, is because the water coming in is fairly deep. I'll show you what that looks like here. We'll bring up Skagway. Skagway is where Jack London's book, The Call of the Wild, that was his inspiration, was Skagway. You can see it here in this passage. It's pretty narrow. When you come in here. In 1896, gold was discovered in the Klondike region of Canada. That's up over those mountains that I showed you in the picture of what it looks like. And they had to, everyone from all over the world came, of course, to get gold. So everyone had to they started here in Skagway, they got their supplies, and then they headed out to the mountains. And it was quite a trek going over these mountains here. We're going to take a little look at what downtown Skagway looks like. Just you can see, this is a cute little town. You can see a little bit. The glaciers up in the top of the mountains here. This is one of the main streets, Broadway. They'll have little places for when you get off your cruise ship, you can come down here and check out the downtown area.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Does Google Maps always blur out faces and license plates for protection?
Yeah. Which is a good thing, because I don't know how many times they've caught me. Yeah, they usually do. Sometimes they miss them, but I think they try to, at least, for people's privacy. So the mountains off to the distance here, this is where people would get their supplies, load up their horses. Some of them just dragged all their stuff up and over these mountains. I mean, can you imagine what this was like to do this type of a trek? There was a steamer that came in 1897 that brought a lot of prospectors who wanted to come in. So a lot of people came in through this route. This was definitely the gateway for people to come in for the gold rush. And just to show you a little bit, there's an old picture. This is Skagway. Here's the mountains back here. All the people with their carriages and their horses getting loaded up. It was a bustling little town at this time. It was actually the capital of Alaska at this time. During this the gold rush. And then, once things kind of settled down after the gold rush passed, Juneau ended up the capital of Alaska. So that's and between this time when this was all happening, 1897, 1898, it was a lawless town. They described it, the mounted police, they said this was a little better than hell on earth. I mean, there was nothing but fighting and liquor and, prostitutes. I mean, it's hard to believe that tiny little town was just, just gone crazy. And so that's what Skagway's history is. So the next stop on our trip, we're going to take our car. Now we have the car out of the ferry. We're going to head on up the Klondike Highway, which is one of the routes that people actually traveled by foot to get to the gold country. But now it's a freeway. Well, small road. Not that I wouldn't say it's a big freeway. And so we'll be taking that from Skagway to Whitehorse will be our next stop. This is what Whitehorse looks like. But let's take a little look at what the road looks like when we come out of Skagway, just so you can see these mountains. So we're in the town. We're gonna head out. I'm gonna pull back a little bit so you can see this town just becomes dwarfed by all the mountains around it. And I'm gonna click on so we can see where the freeway is. There we go. All right, so we're going to come out here. So now you can see the road going out of Skagway. I'm just going to pull back a little more here so we can see it as we come out. And then we're going to take a look at this a little bit. Let's get up into the mountains just so you can see what this part of the countryside looks like. Okay, so this is the Klondike Highway. You can see a little bit of a glacier up here, cutting through here. And I just imagine this without a road and without a car. And you just have everything that you own in life on your back. And you're trying to travel to go get to the gold country. So this highway was built in the 1950s, but it was only completed to Skagway in the early 1980s. So Skagway was cut off from the rest of Canada, going into Canada until the 80s. So that's, when you think about it, it's not that long ago. So they've been pretty isolated. All right, and we're going to take another little, just so you can see some of the terrain here. Sorry, they've changed Google Maps a little bit. Doesn't stay in 2D, keeps going 3D on you. There you go. So I'm going to back out of this a little bit so you can see the area. You'll see some lakes as you go. A lot of mountains coming through here. And let's take another look down over here so you can see. I want to make note too of the trees, because as you start going north, the farther you go and you start getting into tundra, the trees disappear. So here we see trees. We see a lot of trees on the highway. They get a lot of rain up in these areas too, by the way. The weather is, people think Seattle is rainy. You wait until you come up in this area of the country, of the world. They get a lot of rain. It's very pretty out here, though. A lot of wildlife. You're going to see, we saw caribou, moose, goats. Once you get it near the mountain sides, you can see some goats up in the mountains. Not too much traffic out here. There's some nice wildflowers. But just to give you an idea of what it looks like. All right. So heading into Whitehorse. That's our next destination. So when we take a look at Whitehorse here, this is in British Columbia. And this was founded shortly after the gold rush. They call it Whitehorse because on the Yukon River, they have a place called Miles Canyon, and they had an area where it was very rough. And this is where a lot of people's little rafts, they come up over the mountain and then they would hit the Yukon River. People would have to make their own rafts to get down the river. And a lot of these rafts got broken to pieces in what they called the Whitehorse Rapids. So that's where this town gets its name of Whitehorse. Now, it did become the capital of the Yukon in 1953. But after that, actually, Dawson City was the capital, and then this became the capital of the Yukon in 1953. This is the most northerly city in Canada. After that, there are really nothing that's considered a city. It just was a little tiny village of about 500 people. And then the U.S. Army came in because they were building the Alaska Highway, which is the highway that you pick up in Montana. They were building that highway, and that was in 1942. And when they started building that, the population of Whitehorse came to about 21,000 people, and today it's about 25,000 people. So this is the Yukon River. They call it the mighty Yukon. A lot of turns in this river. They have rapids. It's a very pretty river, though. Here's a little shot of Whitehorse in an old picture of the city. You can see what it looks like. It is considered to have subarctic climate. So their average temperature for this city is, in January, their average is -2 in Fahrenheit. And then they range to as high as 69 degrees Fahrenheit in July. So that's what the temperature's like. Let's take a little look at what Whitehorse looks like today. Here we go. All right, so here it is. You can see the Yukon River coming in. This is the actual town where all this blue is here. So I can come down here and let's take a look at the riverside so you can see what it looks like. It's a nice little shot. This is the Yukon River. We look a little bit at their downtown. Get a little feel for the town here. Now, this town is a place that people are going to come for their supplies. People living in Juneau, Alaska, they get on the ferry. This is a big thing for them because they're so landlocked. They have a Costco, and that's about it in Juneau. So just to do something, what they'll do is they'll just get on the ferry, go up the Skagway, drive up here to Whitehorse, get some extra shopping done. There's some hot springs in the area, so they go to the hot springs. It's kind of like a little resort is what it is for people in the area. It's really the only thing, the largest thing in the area. Everything else is really small villages. So you can kind of see a little bit of what this town looks like. They do have some old style. Here's Starbucks. There's always a Starbucks. Let's just take a look at this town a little bit here so you can see what it looks like. So that is Whitehorse. All righty. So now we're going to head up. We're going to leave Whitehorse. We stayed there for one night in Whitehorse. Got fueled up, ready to go. And then we had to take our car. We went from Whitehorse over to Dawson City. Now, Dawson City, this is an interesting city. This comes where the Yukon River and the Klondike River, they meet right at this juncture right here. I think this is the Klondike River on the right side coming in, and the Great Yukon is coming in on the left side. So this little city here, gold was found up here on the left side in the mountains. This was one of the big gold parts. So people came here. This didn't even exist in 1896. And then by the late 1890s, they had 30,000 people living here. So it went from really nothing to having people here. It became the biggest city north of San Francisco in the 1890s. So that's to give you an idea of what was happening in this area. They had a lot of gold, whiskey, and bars on every corner. They had a dance hall. They had Klondike Kate. Kate was one of the dancers, Klondike Kate, in one of the dance halls. It was called the Good Time Capital of North America. By 1898, was when that large gold rush was happening. 100,000 people left from all over the world to get gold. But only 30,000 people made it to this point, to Dawson City. So it was a hard trek. A lot of people, unfortunately, lost their lives trying to battle the Klondike River, trying to get up and down the different mountains they had to do to get there. This, by the way, Dawson City is 154 miles south of the Arctic Circle. Today, Dawson City is so, they're very world famous. They get about 60,000 people annually that come to visit this town. Now, I stayed at this downtown hotel, and it has a little history. They serve a cocktail, and I know you're going to want to just jump right on a plane, boat, log, horse carriage, whatever you can to get to it. They have a cocktail called the Sour Toe Cocktail. And there's going to be a video. There's an article that has a video of this in the email that I send out to you. If you dare, you can go ahead and check it out. But apparently what happened was there was, this became a tradition since the 1920s at this hotel. There was a rum runner. This is during Prohibition. His name was Louis Lincoln. And he lost a toe to frostbite. And the toe was discovered a few years later in an abandoned cabin. So, hey, let's make a cocktail. I guess that was the next best thing. So they started this tradition of putting the toe in the cocktails, and then it's a dare to drink it. And the weird thing is they've had 10 toes donated since then, I guess, to the cause. So if you're ever in Dawson City, that's the place to go. If you dare try it out. Diamond Tooth Gertie's, this is the little gambling hall that they have there. They have the dance, it's a gambling hall and a little casino. Let me show you what this looks like. It's very cute. Anyone have any questions? Go ahead and, ask questions. All right, so let's go to Dawson City. Just to show you some photos here of Dawson City. And here's Diamond Tooth Gertie's. You can see what it looks like here. You can still, it's open only during the summertime. You can come in and check it out. Some old pictures they have here. They've got a boat trip that you can take. And let's look at diamond tooth Gertie's. I'll show you inside the hall. And it's called Diamond Tooth Gertie's because the one of the dancers was named Diamond Tooth Gertie. And she made a fortune, getting money off all the guys that were coming in there drunk as a skunk with gold in their pockets. Her name was Gertie Lovejoy, and she was the Yukon dance hall queen. And she was called Diamond Tooth Gertie because she had diamonds shoved between her two front teeth. So that's why they called her that. This is just to show you what it looks like inside. They do have little shows that they'll put on with the dancers. The casino is a little off to the side. I did go in here and I did lose some money to the casino. Very unique little place, this town. And I think out of all the places, this is one town I would love to go back to see it again. It was very, very, just very unique, very old town. There's no, the roads are not paved because, with the amount of snow they get in the wintertime, it's just not, feasible to have it paved. So that's Dawson City. If you ever take a cruise to Alaska, I've heard someone told me one time in this that there is usually a day trip where you can take the train up to Dawson City and back. So that is something you might want to think about to see this. It's really quite a throwback in history, this town. It's just like it's stuck in the history. All right. So now after this, we stayed for 2 nights in Dawson City to soak in the atmosphere. And then we were going to head up what they call the Dempster. Now, the Dempster is a road that goes right about where Dawson City is, all the way up to Inuvik. They have since extended it. It did get extended in 2017. They have it extended where it goes all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. So you can dip your toe in the Arctic Ocean if you take that road. When I went, it only went to Inuvik. So on the Dempster, if you're renting a car, the first thing they're going to tell you is you cannot drive your rental car on a Dempster because it's gravel road. It's 14 hours of gravel road driving. So it's at this point when Dawson up to Inuvik, we're talking about 479 miles. But it's a crucial link, that road, because it does bring supplies up through all the villages that are in this area. And the Dempster was named after, this is what it looks like to drive it. It's just gravel. You don't see many people on the road. We saw probably a car maybe once every 2-3 hours. Pretty desolate. There was, at one point we were driving and there was a little bit of a forest fire going on. The forest is not very tall here. As you get north, the trees are getting shorter. But there was like a mini forest fire, I guess. But it was burning on both sides of the road. We just kind of went through, but there was no sirens. No one was coming to take care of it. It was just going to burn itself out. So just to show you what this looks like. And it was named after this mounted police named Dempster. He was part of what was called the Lost Patrol. And these were some mounted police. They were looking for, they were trying to get mail and some supplies to this village. And it was in the dead of winter. And they got hopelessly lost in the McKenzie River area. There's a lot of rivers. And they just wandered and wandered until they finally just ended up running out of food and just freezing to death. And so that's where the naming of the road comes from. This happened in 1911. There is a book on it. And in the email, I'm going to send you a link to an article about the Lost Patrol so you can read about the story. little bit more, some pictures of the mountains as you go through. Again, it's all gravel. And you have these river crossings. So you have to wait for this little ferry. Can carry about two cars and maybe a large pickup. And in the summertime when there's no ice, they have these little ferries. In the wintertime, the locals just drive right over the water. So because it's hopefully covered with ice. So you can see what these look like. That's one of them here. They just keep going back and forth, shuttling people over the little crossings. We had to do 2 of them. And this Dempster Highway, this was created they started it in 1959 is when they started it. They completed it in 79. And it definitely, it goes for 460 miles. And of course, it does go farther now today because they did bring it up more north. And now that they extended it and it goes beyond Inuvik to the Arctic water, it is the first road in the history to reach the polar shore of North America, the North American continent. So that is the first road that made it to the water. And it's pretty amazing. I can't even figure out how they did it because when you look at the map of that area, and we will in a second, there's a lot of little tiny rivers and water everywhere. I don't know how they built that road. But the Dempster is closed during the winter. Technically, it's closed. The locals probably still use the road, but it's not something that's going to be plowed or anything like that. All righty. So the next stop is going to be, we're going to stop at Eagle Plains. They call it the Oasis because it is literally the only stop between Dawson City and Inuvik where you can get food, gas. They have services for they can do camper repairs and car repairs and that type of thing. So it is the only place you can stop. And then a little ways up the road from Eagle Plains, you're going to see the Arctic Circle sign in the Arctic Circle. And you can just drive right up, take pictures by the sign. You can see in the distance, there's a valley back here. The Arctic Circle, of course, this is the circle that goes around the globe. And then in Alaska, this is one, like I said, one of the few places you can drive right up to it. A lot of people cross it by being on a ship or something like that. And then, of course, a lot of these areas, there's just simply no roads. There's nothing in that area. And I'll show you. Let's just take a real quick look at what that looks like in that area. All righty. Sorry about that. They've changed Google Maps a little bit. It's a little weird now. All right, let's go up to the Arctic Circle sign so you can see what this looks like. All right, here it is. The Arctic Circle sign's right here. You can drive in, take your pictures. Let's take a look at what this really looks like right here. I'm just going to drop right here so you can see. Now, remember earlier I mentioned how at a certain point there are no trees. And this is one of the points here because we're definitely in the area where there's tundra. And tundra is the frozen ground underneath. It's ground that never thaws out. It thaws out a little bit for a few inches at the top so the soil gets spongy. And you're not really supposed to walk on it because you could ruin the wild flowers. Here's the Arctic Circle sign right here. So it just melts a little bit and then the rest just stays frozen. And because of that, you can't have big trees. There's nowhere for the tree roots to grow. So you can see the gravel. And there's nothing out here. They do have some pretty wildflowers out here, but you can see the trees are completely gone. So it's pretty desolate. A lot of people do drive up just to go to the Arctic Circle. So once you go beyond, you're definitely not going to see very many people on the road. So I would say as we continued up this road, and as you can see, it was, it's pretty desolate. Probably an hour away from this sign, we had a flat tire. So we had a flat tire on the car. It was a Camry. And we pulled out the Fix-A-Flat and it saved the day. It sealed the tire. It was so great because we were really concerned about, we didn't want to change the tire at first. We thought, oh no, because we only had one spare. And so we thought we'd give the Fix-A-Flat a shot, and it worked. So it was very nice. It let us get back, to Inuvik. So you can see, just to show you a little bit, the road will wind around. Sometimes it'll come up against the mountains, and you can see goats up here in some of these mountains walking around. We did see caribou herds, with hundreds and hundreds of caribou in a herd wandering around. And so it was very, very pretty sight to see. So then we end up in Inuvik. Now, Inuvik, this is in the Northwest Territories, Canada. They're known for this church. This town came about in the 1953. This was to be in charge of what they called the Mackenzie Delta, where there's a lot of rivers up in this area. It became a village. It had village status in 1967. And then it became a full-time town in 1979. The Army was there for a while. They were doing some oil drilling up here. And the U.S. Army was up here for a while. So they helped build a lot of the infrastructure for the town. I'm going to pull back a little bit. When we talk about the Mackenzie River, you see all this water. It's just all tiny rivers everywhere. Just a lot of water. So we're at this point 80 miles south of the Arctic Ocean. Let's take a look at what the town looks like. I'm just going to come in here so you can see it. See if I get right to where that church is. There we go. Now this town is interesting because there's the church. They had these, I don't know if I can see them, but these little tunnels that went from house to house because they can't bury the sewer. They can't bury any lines because of the frozen tundra underneath. They have to have all these tunnels that go behind the houses, and that's where all the utilities and everything go. So this is just a small town, like 3,000 people live here. Most of the population are Inuit Indians. So we get here, we had two flats. We had to change immediately two tires. Were completely destroyed from driving all those miles on the gravel. And the first thing the person at this gas station said to us, "You drove over 50 miles an hour, didn't you?" So we had to have the tires changed on the car. So then this is a little shot too of this is 25 years ago downtown. It hasn't changed much. You could go and have a caribou burger, a muskox burger, stuff like that they have here. So then we decide, well, you know what? We made our journey. We have made it to Inuvik, finally, all that we went through. Time for a nice dinner cruise. All right. So I'm ready. I'm like, yes, I'm ready to do the cruise. So we sign up for the cruise. We're standing at the dock. We're ready. And then I'm standing there. A fishing boat comes up. This is our dinner cruise. We had 2 fishing boats. So this lovely family just comes and picks us up. As we're driving down the river, you can see traffic signs, stop signs and everything. And they were telling us that when the winter comes, once he can drive his pickup truck on the river, then everybody knows it's safe. So once that Joe or whatever his name was gets on the river, then everyone knows everyone can drive on the river. So they just drive their cars and trucks, all those rivers. Remember, I just showed you that map, all those fingers of rivers everywhere. It's like their life just opens up because now they can drive anywhere. So they seem to get excited that if winter comes and they can drive on the river. So we end up at their little fish camp. Actually, this was their weekend camp. It was their place to, as they said to me, get away from it all, which was interesting. After being in Inuvik, there's like hardly any people around. So we come up to this fish, this camp here. They have a refrigerator in the ground because it's laying right on the frozen tundra, so they don't need electricity. They have a nice, perfectly working refrigerator from the ground. This is our dinner table. They went out and caught fresh fish for us. It was delicious, and they served it to us here. There were 2 brothers in the family. One of them was a blanket toss champion. So they have these in Inuit games and different types of Native American games that they have. It's like an Olympics, and I think it's held in Anchorage, Alaska every year. And the blanket toss, it comes out of what the whalers would do when they would catch the Inuits to catch whales. They would take their smallest guy, send him up in the air from a blanket so he could go and look and see if there are any whales out there to be caught. So this was a skill that they had to learn. So they were telling us all about their that one of them was a champion. And it was an interesting, chat with them. One of the brothers, he had asked where we had come from, and some of us were from San Francisco. And he just looked at us and he just said, that sounds familiar. So these people really are way out there. They do look forward to driving their skidoos when the wintertime comes, because when there's snow everywhere, they can get anywhere. And it seems like when it's summertime, they're just limited to just a couple roads and they can't get anywhere. There's going to be some other links I'm going to include in the email. One of them is the story about a reindeer project that was done. This was in the 1920s. The Inuits, which are the Indian tribe that's in Inuvik, they were starving. The caribou, something had happened to the caribou herd, and they were dying off, and they really depended on this herd for food. So with the help of the Alaskan government, they had this project where they brought a herd of reindeer. There were 3,000 reindeer. They had to bring them from Alaska all the way across, up and down the hills and across the tundra. It took them 2 years to move this herd over to help the Inuits. So it's a fascinating story. You'll be getting that in the link. There is a whole book that was done on this. So that's the end of the tour today. Any questions anyone has? Comments?
What time of year did you go, Donna?
We went in August. It was about early August. Because late August is when things start closing up. The rivers start, especially up in that north, like the Yukon River, you're going to start seeing some of those rivers freeze up around that time.
Oh, okay.
So we got in really tight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were in before it was all going to start, closing down. Yeah.
Donna, I took the ferry from Bellingham up to Anchorage, and that was that was a real treat because you could get into the inner passage. You could get places that the cruise ships couldn't get into.
Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
saw whales, they would just go in circle. The ferry would go in circles so
Yeah.
we could see the whales up close.
Yeah. The ferries are very nimble. They're not really that
Yeah.
big. They're not like a big, huge cruise ship. Yeah.
It was fun to do it by the ferry.
And in Juneau, if you go there, there's a Tracy Arms tour. Has anyone ever done that one?
Yeah.
You go with a small boat, and Tracy Arms is a little inlet right near a glacier that calves off. So you can go in there, and you're kind of going in between little icebergs, and you get to go into that area. And you see a lot of the seals are just laying all over the icebergs, and you get really up close to them. It's a nice little tour that you can take out of Juneau.
I been to Alaska, and I had a lot of interest in the northern part. I went to Point Barrow. Have you ever been
Ooh.
to Point?
I haven't been up there, but that's way up there.
That's as far as you can get on the North American continent. Actually, I wanted to go to the North Pole, but this was a little more feasible. And it was
Right.
very interesting. I was there for 4 or 5 days, went out to the point, which is the end of the continent,
Mhm.
and talked to some of the people. And you had your comment about that camp that was to get away from it all. Well, on the way to the actual point, there's a bunch of shipping containers. There are about 5 shipping containers. So I asked the guide what they are, and he said they're clubhouses. They're for the people that really want to get away. And so, there's no window, there's no nothing, but they go in there, and God only knows what to do, but very interesting. And you did a great job. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it's a different way of life up there. It's hardy. Boy, it's very remote. When you start seeing
it's
these
as remote as you're going to get.
Oh,
I had a friend that helped build the it's a Dewline site in Point Barrow. That's the only reason it's really there, and it's still there. It's a huge radar site.
Yeah.
And he was there for a year during the war, and his tales. Well, this was a while back, so his tales were something else again. But thank you again.
Yeah, it's, all these little villages we would cross, driving between the major cities, Dawson City and stuff. You'd go through these tiny little villages that I don't know if they had 10 people living there. I don't know. It didn't look like there was much there. But yeah, it's amazing. And to live through those winters up there, and just check the temperature of some of these places we talked about today. See what they're doing today. You'll be so shocking temperatures.
What about bears?
Oh, bears. Yeah. Oh, a Juneau. Oh my Lord. Juneau, it's not when, it's not like if, it's when you're going to see the bear. If you go anywhere hiking or anything, you need to have bear mace or something, because it's just so common to see the bears. I went the last time I was in Juneau. I took a jaunt down to the Mendenhall Glacier just to see what it looked like. And just in the parking lot, the bear just walked right in front of our car.
Oh.
Just like there. I'm like, geez.
What kind of bears, Donna? You didn't see the polar up there, did you?
No, the polar are more.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're way north.
Yeah.
And they're more in Canada on the east side, where
Right.
where all the water freezes up. Yeah, no, they get more of the black bears.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still bears.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'd stay
Oh,
away
like
from them.
I went to Denali. Has anyone been to Denali?
Yes.
I've been to Denali. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know how they put you on that bus and you're
Yes.
driving, and you see bears everywhere. And then they keep saying, oh, by the way, you can get off this bus at any time, and if you want to explore the park. And I'm like, no, I'm good right here. I just saw Mama and her cubs, cross the road. I'm good.
Donna,
Well, there are
I was
two kinds of
surprised
bear-
at the bald
There are
eagles.
2 kinds of bears, black bear and brown bear. And
Right. Yeah.
black bears are fine. Brown bears are grizzly bears. And that's what you got to watch for. They're the killers.
Yeah.
But the black bears won't hurt you. They're fine.
I don't want to take the chance. Carolyn, did you have a question?
I was surprised at the bald eagles.
Mhm.
I'd never seen a live one before, and they were just everywhere.
They're everywhere. Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, once you know what to look for too, then you see them everywhere. Once you know what they look like in the trees. But yeah. And there is, when you're in that inside passage where they have all the different little villages, when you're going up to Juneau, I can't think of the island, what it's called, but they call it Bear Island, but it has another name. And when you go past that, you can see them walking along the shore. They're that island is just full of bears. And people go there hiking, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to hike there. It's just might be a little too much. Any other questions or comments anyone want to make? I would recommend, if you ever get a chance to go to Dawson City, that was really an adorable place. It's like stepping back in time. It was pretty interesting. So, all right then. Well, I'll let you go. Have a nice weekend, everyone. It was great having you here on today's little trip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Take care,
Thanks, Jennifer.
everyone. Bye-bye.